by date, it just spoils. Same shit, a different day. Reality is darker and grimmer. What thrills and entertains. For a small fee will proudly be the evil that satisfies your crave. The evil that satisfies your crave.
You know what every Doom 2 mapper says after working on a level for a little while? I don't think it's hard enough. The basic sin of Doom 2 mapping is that nothing will ever be hard enough when you're the one working on it, and you end up making stuff that's impossible for anybody else to play. Doom 2 mapping. Brutal Doom, pretty interesting. Floors over floors. Not only that, Heretic and Hexen. Floors over floors as well. There's some interesting stuff going on in this special version of Doom Builder. Definitely worth talking about for a second. Now right away, one of the first things I want to mention is that this isn't new news. I'm not informing the world about Doom source ports. However, a lot of people probably have forgotten about Doom mapping and all of the little advancements that we've seen happen over the years. It's been a really long time. So what we have here is a little showcase, if you will, of some of the neat things about Doom, modern-ish day Doom mapping. So we have ramps, we have floors over floors. These are things that didn't happen. We also have dynamic lights. You notice that the scene is not being lit through sector lighting like it used to be before, but is actually being lit with dynamic lights that affect everything around it. There's no shadows though. No shadows. I haven't really looked into figuring out if there's a way to do like shadow maps or just anything like that. It's unlikely. But here we go. So you'll notice that I made a little triangle sector over here on the side here. If you're familiar with Doom mapping, I'm sorry if I'm not explaining enough things. I'll go over Doom mapping in a different segment in more detail, exactly how things work and everything like that. But if you're familiar with it, you'll notice that I made a little triangle sector in the corner here. And that sector actually represents a primitive, if you will. Basically, it's the floor and ceiling height of an alternate sector that can then be overlaid onto another sector, which then gives you the ability to have floors over floors or geometry, or you can do pretty much anything you want with this format. It's it's extremely ungainly. I mean, you can work with it. It's definitely a powerful tool, and you can make floors over floors with it. But I guess one of the main things to mention here is that what has actually happened is, in effect, these are the worst brush primitives in the history of gaming. Overlaying multiple sectors in order to create another floor is really awkward, but it works. And when I say it works, I mean it's functional. Kind of like in the same way that a lot of people complained about CSG subtracting from the world, subtractive level design from the original Unreal, right? If people complain about that, get ready for this. But the thing is, is throughout the history of level design tools, the best tools were not always associated with the best games. In fact, some of the worst tools have some of the greatest games ever made. It's weird, but the tools are not always the thing that determines. I've seen also many examples of really bad games or games that were extremely unsuccessful that had magnificent tool sets, and engines completely, written from scratch that are just amazing, and the game was, a flop. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna have tools. You're gonna have a game. They don't really influence each other as much as you'd think. I'd like to think that the best tools always make the best games, but it's clearly not the case. So, with that in mind, it's entirely possible to make really insane, cool stuff using Brutal Doom with this really awkward sector overlaying technique. I could definitely see it being used to great effect. But that's one of the things about the life of a level designer, is that you usually kind of, when people write 3D engines, they're programmers. They're not thinking in terms, they're just mathing until something happens, and then it's the job of the level designer to make something out of it. It usually tends to be a pretty haphazard process. This is a great example of it. Why didn't Doom Builder just get 3D primitives just like brushes? So on that note, one of the greatest skills of an early days level designer is to find value in things and figure out ways to make things work without actually having the full support of the programmers. And that usually involves, kind of hacking things together and doing all these weird things to stand out from other level designers. Because level designers they're building their value, their self-value in the community. They're finding ways to do things that, usually clamoring to find ways to do things that other level designers haven't figured out yet. So you end up with all these weird techniques, tricks, and hacks. And this was more common to see during the days before source ports. Now, source ports give you everything you could ever want. So now we're sitting here with what? Like Floors Over Floors and Heretic and Hexen. Heretic and Hexen is an RPG. It's a really amazing game. It has a lot of stuff that if it was a indie game that just came out today, it would actually probably be pretty popular. If Hexen came out today, right now, with all of, utilizing all the features of GZ Doom, it would definitely be a popular game. It's kind of interesting to think about, especially if the level designers were able to, cobble together some fantastic maps. And this immediately brings up two different things. One, you can go up to somebody who's about 20 years older, the average, young gamer right now, and ask him what Hexen is, and he, unlikely he won't know. Why? Because he was fucking 5. But other than that, there's the other thing that comes up, and is a pretty interesting point, is that level design as a whole has changed a little less than you might expect. Not in terms of the technology itself, but in implementation. So there's excuses like, there's a bad editor, or there's a stupid features, or, with older tools. With newer tools, there's almost no excuse. There are a lot of things that multiple engines over a course of 20 years are all using and have, developed and evolved. So with that said, I'm guilty of believing that the evolution of gaming has been more linear, but in actuality, it's all over the place. Heretic and Hexen had text-based scripting long before Sin which was supposed to be the first-person shooter to ever utilize that, and Scourge of Armagon was supposed to be one of the first times where we had C++ inside of our scripting languages and that entire branch. But there's games all over the place that Strife, for example, and not only that, but Duke 3D right now, to this day, still has more interactivity in its levels than the average Call of Duty map, the average Halo level, any of the modern games that come out these days. Almost none of them. So these games, they branched off, and some of them died off for various different reasons. But the growth of gaming hasn't been a linear thing at all. It's completely random. Alright, so anyway, I got really sidetracked there. And okay, Team Fortress 2 CTF level. Team Fortress 2, pretty far along in the evolution of gaming. The CTF level got its feedback, and what the main two complaints were about the level was that the players were spawning on the flag a little bit too close. So the whole idea of having the window that overlooks the flag and everything like that turns out to be kind of something that I just can't keep it in the map. It just doesn't work. You can't do that. You can't have the players that close. I mean, I could just let the idea go, which would be the easiest solution. So I still kept the window. I moved the base. The other problem is that the map, even in spite of the fact that I've been making it open, more and more open, TF2 maps need to be really open. They're nothing like Quake 3, they're nothing like Call of Duty, they're nothing like, players need their space in these maps, which has been something that I've been adjusting to this entire project. I've ended up rebuilding the level maybe 3 times now. Well, anyway, let's get started on the TF2 map. And we're off. The first thing I ended up doing was just completely deleting entire chunks of the level again. A lot of it was just sort of haphazardly moving things around, and the level at one point was nearly started over again. Look at this. It's total... There's just stuff everywhere right now. I just grabbed a chunk of the map, dragged it entirely down, and then I figure out how to fix all the holes. And I ended up doing that maybe 3 times to make the map larger. It's been pointed out to me multiple times that those rocks, those square Minecraft rocks that I've got up there, are would result in too much tessellation once I went into tessellating those, with the terrain system. But I mean, they're really just kind of there to get the feel of it. I know I'm going to end up having to edit those rocks, and we'll end up having to see that happen. Probably on the next phase, because the last playtest was actually fairly successful. The process at this point is just, almost all of it is just feeling everything out and organizing things and moving things back and forth. Watching the video and remembering what it felt like to be at the point that I am at this juncture of the design, I kind of have felt like, God, am I ever going to be able to finish this? And somehow I managed to. It just took time and effort, but eventually I got there. But it can be scary. It can seriously be scary, especially if you're under constraints in a professional environment. It's like, you need to get this map done. Well, I'm going off completely on my own, rebuilding this giant chunk for this multi-million-dollar project that, man, hey, no pressure, right? So for a little while there, I was attempting to do both bases at the same time and kind of go back and forth, and then I got kind of annoyed at doing it that way. So I just focused on the blue base for now and deleted the entire red base, and tried my best to get the blue base as far along as possible, which is pretty much what I was always doing before. So there you go. I mean, so I moved the main spawn points away from where the intel is located, and I changed the entire bottom part so that there's just a straight, room that's sitting in front with a window right there. And I have the base separated off to the side of the map because I'm just trying to build it as a separate chunk that I would work on until I kind of got things more formed together. Now keep in mind also, another one of the things that's going on here is that I'm very strongly referencing other capture the flag maps. Turbine is my biggest influence, which was the original influence behind the entire level's design. However, most people ended up thinking that I was just copying 2 Fort, which is a big no-no. Nobody likes 2 Fort. Apparently it's a universal no-no to copy any aspects of 2 Fort over. One of the things that I mentioned on my blog page recently was about how every different community has its own sort of sets of rules. And these rules usually come about as a result of how the game itself plays. Like in Quake 3, if you put your weapon on a pedestal, a little weapon pedestal, you end up getting chewed out by that community because of how Quake 3's jumping works. Which is fine, it makes sense. But there are certain things that'll come up in mapping communities that it's hard to find examples other than oh, you built this with a T-junction, so you lose a point or something, and then your map is actually reviewed, and something like that could actually come up as a reason why your map was marked down a point. Like, it wasn't a 10 because you had T-junctions and wasted polys, or your hallway was too tight, or you copied something from 2 Fort, so you don't get a 10, but it's still a really great map. But a lot of players would never know the difference. In fact, a lot of the time, people who play the game and don't know anything about level design don't even know what the hell a T-junction is. I mean, do you know what a T-junction is? I mean, if you're building a Quake map and you line up a patch and slightly up against the brush without actually giving it exactly the removing the T-junction right there, well, you've committed a sin. I ended up struggling a lot with these little rooms, these side towers, which is interesting. During the playtest, someone tried to describe to me what the tower was, and he was unable to, which is actually a red flag. It's supposed to be a tower, but it ended up being a giant warehouse filled with ramps. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. It's functional at the moment, and I managed to keep coming back to it, and I was like, I'm just going to do other stuff and figure out exactly how I'm going to do this. It's not perfect. Drives me crazy. And on that note, there's a lot of spots in this map right now. I really need to seriously go in before the final art phase. I need to clean up this brushwork because there's polys just getting wasted all over the place. Although I guess that's probably just one of my own peeves. But I come from the Quake 3 community where a wasted poly is like enough to get your map deducted from a 10.0 if stuff players don't even care about. Alright, so at this point, I'm actually getting pretty fond of the general layout. Mid is extremely open, and I keep opening up the map until eventually I start to get the complaint that it is too open. And then I know, okay, I can pull it back now. So this map actually I kept more open each time I rebuilt it. Each time I went through, all the way through everything, I made it more open. I made it more simplistic. And finally, during this playtest, they're like, mid is too open. It's too dangerous. There's a dozen different ways of saying the same thing. That's what was being said. It was a tragic progress, but it was a progress nonetheless. So at this point, I'm like, I wonder, like, the map is just a little bit too simplistic at this point. Feels like there's just not enough connections to the flag room or the intel room. So what should I do? I'm like, maybe I should build another hallway? No. What should I do? Well, that air vent that I was like really going crazy about, it's back. But I made it work this time. And this damn air vent, but at least this time, I'm pretty sure it's gonna work. So toiled away on the side of the map in some random spot over at a little model farm they're called, I had my air vent pieces. And I constructed it, and the textures are a complete disaster. Even the build that I finally finished by the end of the video, the air vent textures are all over the place. But regardless, it doesn't matter. There's an air vent again, and here we go. Try number 15. My air vent is properly lit. That is a good thing. So at this point in the process, I am now, like, I feel like everything's positioned, everything's okay. I hadn't been practicing any of the texturing. Now, in every editor, all the major ones, you're usually allowed to select the texture and then paint it on the polys based on just with the click of a mouse, either a middle mouse button or whatever. But it's really confusing when you jump back and forth from different editors to remember, like, because every fucking editor has a different version of this. So I ended up just totally struggling, and some really weird shit happened. So at this point, I'm doing things kind of the slow way. I'm not actually doing the painty way of, the single click, select the material. I'm actually going manually through the window to select the material. It's a slower way to do it, and eventually, like, really painful for somebody who's, really used to using this editor would probably want to smack me in the back of the head for doing it this way. But anyway, it worked for a little while, and then I start, experimenting a little bit more. Check out my bricks, yo. I'm breaking this up. Red team's bunch of bricks. Got bricks and then some cement over here. This only took longer than it's supposed to. But I made it work. Here you go, I gotta stop saying So anyway, at that point, mid is actually like way too... Whoa, hold on a second. What the fuck? Wait, what is this? Something's selected. I can't unselect it. Why is this surf? Hold on. What the fuck? I'm really trying hard to understand. What the hell is this? What? How come? All right. Maybe if I get out of the mode or something. Wait, no. Like, why are those polys permanently selected? And then, I'm just trying to texture this, but they're just selected. What the fuck is... What? I'm really trying to understand this here, and I'm having really... Wait, the ones that were selected don't have a texture now? What the fuck? Like, what happened? Why is there weird red poly select things? Is it a feature? Is this a feature or a bug? I can't... And how did I make it happen? I hope this never happens again. This is insane. Like, God. What the fuck? Okay, so why is that selected? Why is that? What happened? It's not selected out here. So wait, I'm not even in texture mode and I have a face selected? And there's corners over there still selected? And, okay, so alright, if I... how do I select a material to apply to another material? Man, I am all fucking thumbs right now. What is going on? Okay, alright. Alright, so, maybe if I... what? Why is... This is a nightmare. What the fuck is causing this? It's not even on the other side. I haven't selected the brush. I've gone into different modes. I can't unselect some of these polys. Nothing... What the fuck? Okay, undo that. Alright, okay, if I select this... Oh, there we go. I figured it out. And you know what's even weirder? I can't tell you, watching the video, I can't tell you what the key combination was. I don't remember. But when I'm in front of the editor, I can. That's really weird. Have you ever tried to ask somebody, like a level designer, like what buttons he presses when he's working in the editor? He probably can't tell you because he's so used to just doing it. These faces are still fucking selected. They're still selected. Alright, well anyway, I'm gonna go across the other side of the map. I'll let that go for now, and it seems to be some kind of a bug or an error, but I don't know, has anyone ever ran into that one before? Because that was just fucked up. Like, I'm not supposed to have polys selected that I don't actually have selected that behave weirdly. What a weird fucking bug. At this point, I'm just commandeering as many things as I can from other maps. It's a great way to save time, and it's usually the way to go. I'm going to be doing that a hell of a lot during the art phase. So, here's a staircase from something else. I'm glad somebody else built it for me. And if you're thinking that's cheating, then, well, it's not. Because the player doesn't care about your feelings. He doesn't care about whether or not it's genuinely created brushes by the designer at this point in time. He just wants a fucking staircase that can kill people on it. So that's all you really should be providing. Grab stuff from other maps. Commandeer things. That's what other maps are there for. Seeing me trying to texture this air vent is making me want to cry. I wanted to cry while I was doing this. In fact, I think I'm crying right now. Just holding back my tears. Every surface a texture, and every texture a surface. At least that's what I was trying. Then I had to make more surfaces for more textures. And I'm doing some really horrible things to brushes here. But it happened. It works. What's interesting about this is it's a lot like the building process. Now, just figuring out what textures I want to use is like trying to, I don't know, just experimenting, throwing shit on walls and see what sticks, like what works. See, sometimes you're supposed to have concept art, and then you build around concept art. But when you're freeform building a level like this is like, on the streets building. This is like on the forums building. You don't have any concept art sometimes, so you're just freestyling it. And you end up with some weird stuff, but that's what's going on here. These square spaces must accommodate a theme. Okay, so at this point I'm happy with the blue base, so I copied the entire blue base and well, struggled with textures for a little while, doing all kinds of neat stuff. I'm like, whoa, error message, what the fuck was that? Why? Alright, so I'm slowly figuring out how to like replace all of the textures, but without actually replacing all the map, the textures across the rest of the map. I have to make sure the rest of the level is hidden. And I do the find replace thingy, and alright, things seem to be going alright. Having to check inside of it. Alright, everything's going. The trim didn't work, but alright, here we go. We are dangerously close to the point in time where I must check to see if the map is going to have a leak. Will it have a leak on the first try? And not a Hatsune Miku leak. I'm just talking about like a leak, like a water leak. Or thanks to John Carmack, a space leak. A leak that has space, that the whole world is, yeah. Well, thank you, binary space partitions. You've provided us with a new type of leak. But not uncommon to most leaks. These types of leaks, well, they don't taste very good. Well, these leaks don't really give us very much good. They make the world a worse place. And I don't want to hear, oh well, I make Unreal maps or Serious Sam maps, so I don't have to worry about leaks because I'm subtracting from the universe. Okay, so at this point I'm pulling out all the stops. You see right here what I just did? This is the origin of those two waterfall models. I put a brush there at the origin just in case those might leak. So I'm doing everything that I possibly can right now to prepare the first build of the map where everything is in place to see if it leaks on the first try. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so moment of truth, it's going through. Looks like it went through BSP. Oh fuck, no viz information? Oh, it's only doing direct lighting. Direct lighting is dirty. It doesn't even bounce. So here we go. I'm just searching around all over the place. Alright, I load a PRT file, which is a red line that kind of points you to where the map would be, or where the leak. Yep, that's it right there. That's the leak. That's the horrible offender. This is what prevented me from like nailing the map on the first try. That little annoying corner. That's so annoying. That's so annoying. But hey, at least I was only one accident away, right? I mean, will it compile now? Like, maybe I should test. Let's see. I mean, is the level gonna leak still? Or maybe there's something else. Maybe I could take a look around. No, the other side didn't have the same problem. So it was specific to that one side. Yep. Alright. So I guess we could check now. Compile. And goes through BSP. Alright, viz information. That means that it can actually do all of the bouncing lights and non-direct lighting. Everything's going great. Alright, so at this point I'm just going in and fixing up final things. I added some extra doors here. Then I had a problem where the doors, I didn't change the target names of the doors, and I had to do that. And now I'm just kind of going around and tweaking things. I moved the trucks. One of the feedback things about the trucks was pretty interesting. Well, everything's in good shape now. It looks like the level's pretty much ready to go. I've never owned a Victini. So anyway, after all this stuff that's going on, got all the level all built up, got everything going, and alright. So let's see how the level plays.
Well done, Prestige. out through our intel.
Secured the enemy intelligence.
Was it too hard? Too easy? How was it?
The vent route that leads into the intel is quite powerful for scouts if you could do like a van jump in there.
I never thought about soldiers getting up there. Holy shit.
I've missed CTF maps. I see him.
We got incoming.
Just walk off into the pit.
Building the sentry down.
Ooh. I'm killing myself. Oh.
What the hell? That's a sneaky way to put the sentry.
Someone please help. There's
You
nobody
can put
seeing me.
sentries in the waterfall and it practically obscures them completely.
Yeah, so what's the entity called for no building? It's just called no build?
Funk underscore no build.
Funk no build, yeah.
It's a brush base.
I've explored with the
Don't
explored
killing
the
that
idea
entrance.
of making it slippery there too, so you can't stand there.
Yeah, put trigger push or something like that.
Okay, I'll probably do that as well.
Thanks.
Damn spies. Well, that pretty much concludes everything for this episode. There really isn't much else to say. It's super late. Man, I'm tired. I hope you enjoyed the video and stay tuned for more.
Evil